Now, we all know that Red Bull has dominated the entirety of 2022 without a problem, and it's something that was more than welcome given the fact of how difficult of a fight they had last year with Mercedes. However, some accusations about a possible breach of the rules have emerged, and it seems like Red Bull will be under investigation when it comes to the 2021 budget cap restrictions. So, did the Austrian team breach the budget cap that was firstly introduced in 2021? And if they did, what are the repercussions that they'll meet? Is it possible for Verstappen to lose the championship that he won under controversial circumstances? Stick around with us to find out more. Now, as we mentioned earlier in this video, the budget cap was first introduced in 2021, and the FIA had a goal of bringing racing closer by not allowing richer F1 teams to spend as much money as they can on car upgrades. With the budget cap, every F1 team has the same amount of money to spend throughout the season, and the FIA plans to continue with this concept in the following years. Not only that, they've shortened it down by $5 million in 2022 and plan to do the exact amount of shredding in 2023 when the budget cap is supposed to be $135 million. In 2021, the budget cap was $145 million, and it was evident that teams like Red Bull and Mercedes were willing to push the boundaries in what turned out to be one of the most exciting seasons in the sport's history. Nevertheless, Red Bull was accused of breaching the allowed limit of $145 million, and it's likely to face repercussions if they're proven guilty. What's even more controversial is the fact that Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship last season, so if the team is found guilty, then they're in big trouble. Apart from Red Bull, Aston Martin has also been accused of cheating and breaching the budget cap of $145 million, but even if they did so, they weren't much of a relevant factor last season, and the repercussions they'll meet won't hurt anybody apart from them. So, is it possible that Red Bull indeed spent more money compared to what was allowed in 2021? Well, according to Christian Horner, this isn't true, as the team has stayed within the budget cap and these rumours will go down in vain immediately. Still, one could understand why Red Bull pushed so hard in the 2021 season and why they're being accused of breaching the budget cap, even if they didn't do it. The last season was the first time after 2013 that Red Bull had a chance to win the Drivers' Championship, and it's likely that the mentality of whatever it takes prevailed in Red Bull's garage. Now, what happens when a team breaches the budget cap and spends more money than allowed? For example, the team can hire more staff, they can bring more upgrades to the car, and therefore be faster on the last few races of the calendar where the battle for the championship got insanely hard. But one thing doesn't add to this narrative, and that is Red Bull's dominance in 2022. Usually, when an F1 team spends a lot of money for the development of 2021, its budget for the next season is kind of limited since they went all in for the 2021 season. This may be one of the reasons why Mercedes has struggled a lot with its pace, as we've heard multiple records from teams across the grid that they aren't investing too much in the 2021 concept of their car since they're waiting for 2022 and the new regulations. Now, if this proves to be true, it's going to be another hit for Max's championship, given the fact that he won it under controversial matters in the first place. His win in Abu Dhabi saw Michael Massey being sacked from the position of race director, as he admitted that he made an error in arranging a final lap restart, allowing only a portion of the lap cars to regain the lap lead instead of all of them. Many fans out there are calling Verstappen the human error champion, which has been proven to be not the right thing, as we're seeing pure dominance in 2022 from the Dutchman. Still, if Red Bull is found guilty of breaking the budget cap, is there a possibility that Verstappen can lose the championship to Hamilton? The answer is yes, there is a possibility. But the question is, how real is this a possibility? If a team is found guilty of breaking the rules of the budget cap, there are multiple repercussions that they can meet, and one of them is a deduction of points of the driver for the team that was accused of breaching the rules. Apart from that, there are other repercussions that the team can meet, such as the deduction of points of the team that is accused of breaching the rules, suspension from sessions during race weekends, but not Grand Prix themselves, or limits on aerodynamic testing allowances. Red Bull may also face a reduction of cost cap for the season following from a year when the sanction is applied, meaning that the Austrian team can face even further shedding of the 2023 $135 million budget cap. Now, how likely is it that Red Bull, more precisely Max Verstappen, will lose the championship to Hamilton? Well, to be honest, that's very unlikely to happen, as Verstappen himself wasn't the one to blame for Red Bull's financial infringement. Even if he did know about this thing going on, there's nothing that the driver can do in this place, and eventually the Constructors' Championship is the one segment that is taking the toll on these kinds of situations. For teams that overspend more than 5%, the cost cap adjudication panel can apply the same sanctions that we mentioned earlier in this video, but with the additional option of excluding teams from the championship. These penalties can also be suspended, meaning that they will not be applied directly, but if a team commits a similar breach for a second time. This is also something that's very likely to happen to Red Bull, apart from the deduction of points in the Constructors' Championship. So why is this such a big matter now? Well, Red Bull has also been accused of breaching the budget cap in 2022, mostly by Ferrari, who were their main rivals at the beginning of the season. Matteo Binotto spoke multiple times about all of the upgrades that Red Bull is implementing on their cars, saying that he doesn't quite understand where they got their finances from and how they're managing to stay inside of the budget cap. The latest jab was taken when Red Bull developed a new lighter monocoque that's supposed to shed another 5 kilos from Red Bull's car from Singapore GP onwards. This is the monocoque that was rumoured to have been implemented in Spa, but the team was adamant that it wasn't, and Singapore is where we'll see it for the first time. When talking about this matter, Binotto said, "I myself have no idea what they're doing, whether they have a lighter chassis or not, but the budget cap is always a concern. In addition to technical and sporting regulations, we also have to deal with financial regulations, and that can also cause differences between the teams purely by how those regulations are interpreted. We need a strong FIA who's on top of this, because otherwise those rules are not fair and equal for everyone. But as I said, I can't judge Red Bull's lighter chassis and whether they have it or not, but I do know that Ferrari couldn't do that because of the budget cap," said Binotto, who continued to speak about other teams' possibility to do what Red Bull has done, adding, "I'd be very surprised if another team turns out to be able to do that. And if it is, then we come back to the regulations. Are they fair enough? Do they see equal enough for everyone? And is it adequately monitored? These are big question marks. The rules are still very new and are only checked by a small number of people, so that has to be improved with a view to the future. It would be a bad thing if the championship is determined by financial regulations and not through a technological battle," finished Binotto. But in 2022, all of the teams received $4 million in additional help due to the inflation being more than 3%, and Red Bull said that they used $2 million of that money to build 2 monocoques, meaning that each one is worth $1 million. With that being said, it's very unlikely that the team has committed a breach in 2022, since they got a commanding lead in the early part of the season, and they wouldn't want to jeopardize its championship by committing something stupid at the end of the season. As for 2021, the FIA has started an official investigation when it comes to the accusations against Red Bull, and it's up to us to wait and see what will happen in the upcoming period. So, do you think that the Austrian team has breached the rules and spent more money than allowed? Let us know in the comments below.